Hello and welcome to Messages and Methods. Our special guest tonight is Peter Liefer. He is my personal financial advisor, and he's here to share some wisdom with us tonight. And this is my co-host, of course, Toby Eunice, and we'll be getting started in just a moment. Toby and I want to provide value to our community, and we hope you enjoy the videos we create. We appreciate you being here to engage with us. To help us in return, you can share your ideas and appreciation by clicking on the thumbs up like button, subscribing, clicking on the bell to receive notifications, and writing a positive comment. Then share our videos with your family and friends so we can grow the channel and reach more wonderful people in the future. Thanks.
And
all right. Good evening, Peter. Thank you for being with us tonight.
It's a joy being here. I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. So we want to just jump right into your story. So tell us all about you.
Do they still have Cliff Notes? Do you want the Cliff Note version, or are we going to do War and Peace?
So we've got a half-hour show. It's up to you how much.
Okay, Cliff Note version. Okay, comedy or drama?
A little of each. That's kind of the nature of the the hero's journey. It's got humor and.
So let me say, okay, so I'm an early baby boomer. I was born February 1946. If you say 1946 is when baby boomers began. I was born in Australia. My mother's an Aussie, and my late mother died 2 years ago. But she was the belle of Brisbane, Australia, married my father, dashing Army sergeant, and I showed up sometime later. I came to the U.S. when I was 3 months old, which when I tell people I was born in Australia, they say, gee, you don't have an accent. I cry with an accent, but I grew up in the Midwest. So farm town, I can remember, this must have been when I was 5 or 6, that the sign came down that said 900 and it went up that said 1200. So small farm town. We were the German Lutherans. The other side of the town were the German Catholics. I was related to half the town. I discovered as I got older, it was important to know who we were related to because we had evidence of people who didn't watch that too closely. And like everyone else, everybody's dad was a World War II veteran, except for those few that we knew weren't. Okay, so I grew up. The VFW hall was the thriving metropolis center of the town. 1965, I'm sort of figuring out what is my true calling in life. What am I supposed to do? I'm 19. Tonkin Bay occurs. I go, hot damn, it's a war. That takes care of that. So joined the Army. One of the very few people in my platoon who joined the Army, went in from Chicago. I think I was one of 3 who did not have a police record in my basic platoon. Went on through my basic training, advanced training, went on then to officer candidate school. I was encouraged by a sergeant to go to officer candidate school because he said, Liefer, you better become an officer because you sure the hell will never make sergeant. So went through OCS, airborne school. Then I think this is where my life began to have some interesting formation. I went through the special warfare school at Fort Bragg. What was unique about that, if I look back on it, it was very much almost like my advanced degree, and because I was very much trained about the nature of guerrilla warfares. How did Vietnam start? Where did the French screw up? What about the Chinese? And because we were getting a context about not only Vietnam but all guerrilla warfares. Found myself in Vietnam in 1967 at age 21. I remember on my 22nd birthday, I was in this little remote province, and I remember very distinctly on the eve of my birthday being overrun by the 32nd NVA regiment because it was Tet of 1968. So it was an interesting tour because I was living with Vietnamese in Montagnards in their village with a small team, and it gave me a different perspective than most of my fellow grunts, infantry people. I began to realize very quickly after I got out of Vietnam and I was running a training committee, the difference between me and the sergeant, the E5s, the Spec Forces. I had gone to OCS. That was it, but we had entirely different experiences. Spent my 20s after that, trying to find out what I wanted to do. Went to college, GI Bill, worked 2 jobs, married 2 kids, got married at 21, divorced at 29, and at one of the major changes in my life, I was being dehired from a job, and I thought I had held my disdain for my boss very privately, but apparently it hadn't. And part of the exit interview was, "So what are you going to do now, smartass?" And I said, "I think I'm moving to Phoenix." And that had never come out of my lips before. And I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you say something, you sort of watch the words form and you look at them and you say, "Gee, that's really a good idea." So 2 months later, I was in Phoenix. Went to work for Payne Weber. Long time ago, called Thank You, Payne Weber. Worked for a number of what we call in my industry wirehouses, traditional brokerage firms, who have all been merged out of existence by now. 1999, I formed my own company called Values Quest, basically believing that if I know what people's values are and if I know what's important to them, managing the money is pretty easy. So that's what I've done for the last couple decades. And world travel, I'd like to do that, and a lot of work around nonprofit organizations. I've been married to Catherine for 18 years, assortment of grandchildren, animals, et cetera, et cetera. So how's that for a condensed version?
That's a great condensed version. I didn't realize how much you and I have in common in terms of our military service, and we'll talk about that one time. But so when you lead that kind of life, there are inflection points, and those inflection points are usually related to some of the obstacles you had to overcome. As you look back over your life, what obstacles did you have to overcome that made you the person you are today?
My small town upbringing, my mother married my father in Brisbane, which is sort of like a San Diego, if you don't know Brisbane, and thinking that she was going to come to the United States and do, if you're an old movie person, the Philadelphia Story. It turned out to be closer to Grapes of Wrath. So my mother was not a happy person, and my father was not a happy person being married to my mother, and I don't know what came first. My father was a functioning alcoholic. Drank, that was part of his life. Formed the AA chapter in my hometown, was sober for 12 years, then began to realize he missed his buddies. So went back to drinking, and frankly, his whole community, his little group of 4 or 5 drinking buddies, they all died within about a 3 or 4 year period of time with one another. So difficult. You don't realize how difficult your home life is until you leave it, because it becomes the norm. I was very fortunate. I had 2 really great scoutmasters, and they saw leadership in me that my father didn't see. So that was one of the obstacles and one of the step up that I had as I went along. Post-Vietnam, I think if you have situations where you're responsible for people dying, you call in airstrikes and discovered, yes, there were families in that target area as well. You have to deal with that. And so part of the challenges was putting the past in the past. I've gone back to Vietnam twice now, and the first time I went back to my old area of operation, and it was just a very redemptive type experience. The last time I went back 2 years ago, I was taking wheelchairs back to the northern part of Vietnam, sitting down and talking to people who were on the other side. And so those are some of the obstacles. I think part of it is when you're a generalist and you have a lot of a whole wide variety of skills. Part of it is really picking out, what do you do well? What is your calling? And I often talk to people about the difference between having a job and finding their work. And there is a sense of what is your work? What are you here for? What's your superpower? So that's been a sort of a lifelong quest of continuing to sharpen. Oh, what can I bring? Where am I distinctive? What do I do? And long answer to a simple question, but is that? Shall I elaborate? I got it. Okay.
Great answer. Shelley and I do these interviews, so people who watch these interviews can learn from them. And you and I, because we are boomers, I'm a 1949 boomer, had a lot of this same experiences and had similar obstacles. Well, again, we'll talk about that some other time because this is your show, not mine. But but it's amazing how some of the obstacles you experienced were similar in my case, and how you overcame them were similar in my case. So I don't know if that's a boomer trait or not. Shelley?
So what, if you had to distill your message down to one message that you feel compelled to share with the world, what would that be?
I was doing a speech to a large group, and I closed with and to quote Kermit the Frog: "When you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you rot. Stay green."
What a great piece of advice. It works perfect in almost every situation. So speaking of those kinds of rules, again, when you've had a life as textured and long as you have, you develop a series of rules that you operate constructively under, and over your life, you keep some. You throw some away. You realize, no, this just doesn't work anymore. Tell us a little bit about the rules that govern where you are right now as, I guess, a retired financial advisor with plans for moving forward into something. Tell us a little bit about those rules of yours.
So I'm still active because I happen to follow my one rule: if you're green, you grow, and if you're ripe, you rot. So I have no intention of rotting. So, but part of it is I think the two biggest things that have occurred to me recently. I got involved in a coaching program about a year ago. Sharp young guy online, but the main value out of it was, we have pods, accountability pods. There are about a dozen people in it. And we usually meet on Wednesday nights, Wednesday afternoon, 5:00. Somebody signs on from India. Someone is running an NGO in Cambodia. Somebody is from Thailand in the group. A lovely lady from Australia. We popped to the US. Another person from India, from Argentina. I'm in Arizona, someone's in Orange County, Michigan, and so on. The difference is, except for one of the people, these are people in their 40s. And we're reading a lot of great books. We're counting what's on our life. What are we moving forward on? I'm having a chance to have conversations with people who are much younger than me. So that's an important thing that has made, is to stay fresh. You are the conversations that you're having in your life. So what are you talking about? I had created men's groups at one point in my life, and I have, one of the blessings of COVID is I got the remaining guys together, and every other Friday at 9:30 in the morning, there's 6 of us, and we're all in, the contemporary side, their 70s and 80s, but I'm very much aware of the guys who are into something, who are really alive and growing, because we're talking about now and what our future is. So one of the important things I've read recently is you need 3 things in your life to have a meaningful life. One is something to get up for, someone to love and who loves you. That could be your plant or your dog and cat. and something to look forward to. So I'm really making sure that when I'm talking to my clients, I want them to hang around because one, they're friends of mine. I care about them. But number two, I want them to have a great life. And so those are fundamental rules. I don't know if I answered that right on, but that's part of my core of who I am.
Well, I was impressed that two of the rules include stay green and stay fresh.
Yeah.
So those remind me of being just a very tasty vegetable. So.
That's good.
He wants
I'm
to be
just a salad here. Yes.
Yeah.
a magic salad. So tell us, you own your own business, you run your own business, but you have to stand out. You have to be unique in some way to draw the people to you who are a good fit for you. So what is it that is unique about your method of working with people and helping people?
I was a young father, so I have a son now who's in his 50s with his own company, and I called him up about 2 years ago, and I said, Peter, I said, you're fortunate. You have some really great DNA from me, and there's some flaws that I've noticed. And I said, if I look at my industry and I look at the people who are really successful, I said, the two things that I have not done that I wish I had done more of earlier was to really define a niche, something that I really know well and I can really dominate. And I said, and then the other thing is to form a really, really great team around me. So in the last year, I have really owned the fact that what I'm really good at and what I really care about, what I'm really passionate about, is this whole thing about encouraging generosity with my clients. And the reality is many people have the ability, they want to make a difference in their community. And frankly, the laws in our country are written really to encourage you to do that and to make a big difference. So where I am right now is this real strong focus on the philanthropic approach to things, letting my clients know it's my value. My friends know this. Like I said, they know I've been to Vietnam. They know that my wife ran a nonprofit with free medical care for 20 years for people. That is, I walk my talk. I think the other area that's really important to me is this team building, and this is part of being a mentor to this whole group of community. And frankly, one of my goals before the end of the year is to really solidify my team aspect. That's a gap that I'm working on, and part of it is being honest with people about what my gaps are.
So before we go on to this next question, Peter, I do have your website up. I'm going to share that with everyone so that they can see it. Let me turn off this one banner so they can see all of it. And I have posted Peter's website URL into the chat room. So if you want to go to visit it, tell us a little bit about your Values Quest website, if you would, Peter.
So there's a story and there's a story. So the one story is my son's business is he's in the internet marketing business. So a plug to my son is if you go to primeview.com, you'll find this this website, a company that does that. So my son came to me a couple of years ago and said, Dad, your website is really boring as hell. And I think people, and his name is Peter Liefer as well. And he said, I'm losing business. So I want to do your website. And being the good capitalist, he said, and he's not going to do it for free. I'll make a deal for you. So he overlooked the fact that he got his start from the bank of dad. But anyhow, so PrimeView created the website. Here's what I promised you. If I'm going to reappear on your show at some point in the future, I will freshen my website. Okay. Right. One of the things on there, though, it has the CAP announcement a little bit right in the middle of it. CAP stands for Chartered Advisor to Philanthropy. And that's one of the designations that I have kept active in my life because that's really a great passion. Also, if you see the posting there, you'll see the plot to destroy America's beer. That was my lament about the growth of Budweiser taking over good breweries. One of my great passions is good beer. And then the Australian mindset, working to live instead of living to work. I try to bring that in my life, and my wife feels that's something that should be stamped out. But the Aussies, if you travel the world, you'll keep running into Aussies. So,
Mhm.
in words of wisdom over there, they change from time to time. I think there's a quote there by Rumi, which has, everyone has been made for some particular work, and desired for that work has been put in every heart.
Mhm.
So part of what I really want people to do is to get really clear about why are they here and what's their contribution.
Well, that's a valid and noble objective. So let me go back to the next question, and that is based on where you're at right now, and it feels to me like you're in. I wouldn't call it a transition, but a period of moving on to whatever the next thing is for you. Tell us a little bit about your plans for the future.
Part of his coaching program that I'm in, one of the things, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but about 1990s, psychology began to change. And up to that time, it doesn't matter what was wrong with people. The 1990s, more or less, it began to get into what is high performance? What works for people? How can people be happier? So part of this program I'm in is called AMP, and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, young 30-ish psychologist, is the person doing it. And he pulls in the very, very best things that he can find from other areas. So part of it is, what is my future self? And what does my future self look like? And I've really broke that down into 4 areas, my domains, okay, which is, and this is I acknowledge this is Ben Franklin, okay, healthy, wealthy, wise, and I've added happy to that. So healthy, my goal is to be a model of what aging looks like, because when I start talking to my contemporaries about living for another 10, 20, 30 years, their whole thing is, what comes to mind is sitting in a old folks home in a wheelchair, somewhere pushed down in the corner. And if you look, it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, Clint Eastwood's 91, still making movies.
Right.
There are some dynamic older people. So I want to be a model of good health. So that's the healthy side. Wealthy is my work. And wealthy is much more than just accumulating money. It's certainly helping my clients take care of their needs so they can live into the future and be comfortable about that. But it's, where else am I wealthy? What a wonderful wealth of friends. I'm in a great country. I live in a great area. So part of the very first thing, if you're going to have your life work, is to have gratitude. Because once you start having gratitude, you start seeing what is working, you attract more things. So healthy, wealthy, wise. For me right now, that's pretty much my spirituality. And I'm not saying religion because I've been there, done that. I have the scars. So it's my spirituality. It's a sense of a connectedness with the divine, a connectedness of why I'm here, of making a difference. Part of the wise is to becoming a wise mentor to people. Part of what I do well may surprise you as much as I'm talking, but I really listen well as well, and I ask good questions. And then finally, it's happy. And it's a matter of what is that measure? Do I enjoy my life? Am I glad that I'm here? And am I making other people happy? So those are the 4 domains: healthy, wealthy, wise, happy.
Very nice. Shelley, back to you.
All right. So I guess we are, all we got left is, as how can people find and connect with you?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a pretty good ending there.
That's what's left. How can people find and connect with you? And if they have questions or want to know more, what should they do?
So I am known as Peter at valuesquest.com, and that's values with more than one value. So valuesquest.com. If you put in valvesquest.com, it won't come to me. So valuesquest.com. Website, www.valuesquest.com. The website, if I said anything that you want more information about, or you think I'm really wrong, let me know, and I promise to get back to you. I'm fortunate enough. One of the things I'm grateful for is the industry that I'm in, because we have huge amounts of resources for my senior Encore clients. And it's perhaps our way of trying to get forgiveness for convincing people that they should really work towards retirement and then retire and then stop doing something, because then you die because you get bored. I leave you with the fact that retired people who do nothing turn into pips. And if you're in the nonprofit area, you've run into those. The pips are previously important people. They will tell you who they used to be, pips. So don't be a pip.
Be green and fresh.
Be green, a salad.
Agreed.
Yeah, stay green. Stay like a salad. Be green and fresh. So is the 602 number good for you?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to put it. So I have posted Peter's website, his email address, and his phone number in the chat room. So if you guys want to get in touch with him to discuss any of the matters that he's talked about tonight, I do want to say something because Peter just used the word Encore. One of the directions that Shelley and I have headed recently is into supporting people over 50. We call them the 50 plus. And we refer to them as either Encore entrepreneurs or legacy live streamers. And we're getting some traction with that because we feel like it's an underappreciated part of the population and an under-recognized part of the population, as you can tell by just listening to Peter's experiences. He's got a great deal of experience and he's not stopping. But the reason I said that is because I wanted to thank Peter for that, the idea behind Encore Entrepreneurs, because it was Peter speaking with Shelley's husband, Kevin, who asked Shelley's husband, it wasn't exactly Encore.
What's your Encore career going to be?
What's your Encore career? And when Shelley told me that story, I thought it was really fascinating because I realized that's where I'm at. I'm in my Encore career, some of which is related to what I spent my career in, but some of which is not, and it hasn't slowed me down. I have a couple of years on Peter, not much, just 2, but I have, like Peter, no desire or no intent to quit anytime soon. And my definition of retirement is completely different. When I retired in 2010, that definition of retirement is literally 180 degrees different from my current definition of retirement. And I think it's that Encore mindset that Peter described. And if you want to learn more about it, you should take the time to talk with Peter about it. Shelley?
Can I just add?
Sure.
Can I add in a brief addition? So if you've ever been to great concerts with really great groups, the show is wonderful, particularly if you know them and you know them. But everybody comes alive for the encore because the band is there playing their very best music that everybody knows and loves. The audience is on their feet yelling and screaming. That's what our life should be like during our encore.
Yeah, exactly. And the advantage, as I've realized with Shelley's help, is that I couldn't have done this 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 50 years ago because I didn't know then what I know now. And it's just amazing how easily that kind of learning comes to you at this age. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
Back to you.
There's always more to learn.
Yeah.
There's always more to do. Keep us busy and have fun too. It's a lot of fun, right?
It is a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
And
thank you all for being with us today, and we hope that you really enjoyed and got a lot out of our talk this evening. Again, please do contact Peter for more information, and that information is in the description box below this video if you're watching the replay. And think about joining our Facebook group if you are an Encore entrepreneur or a legacy live streamer. And that Facebook group is called Leveraging Your Content. Just look for it on Facebook groups, Leveraging Your Content. And we'd love to see you in there. And for Messages and Methods, I'm Shelley Carney.
Thanks for joining us tonight. And Peter, thanks for being such a great guest. We really appreciate it.